Always two there are. No more, no less. A master and an apprentice.
Be mindful of the living force, young Padawan.
You will be tempted by the dark side of the Force.
One must destroy in order to create.
Buckle up.
Pass on what you have learned.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my Ahsoka Episode 5 trailer video. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references going back to Star Wars The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, obviously just hyping up her relationship with Anakin Skywalker as Master and Apprentice. That's why they're leaning so heavily on the Master and Apprentice relationships across Star Wars during this trailer. This is only the beginning. We're only halfway through the season, so be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. Of course, I'm doing videos for everything. This will all build up to The Mandalorian Season 4, and then we'll have the actual Thrawn movie. But if the movies go well and they do a full trilogy, then we'll probably see multiple seasons of Ahsoka in The Mandalorian that will take place in between the Thrawn movies. So this is really just the beginning. And the other big thing you probably just saw Star Wars Twitter talking about is that they're actually showing Ahsoka Episode 5 in theaters because probably there's going to be so much Anakin Skywalker. It's going to be such a big episode. Normally in the past, when big networks do stuff like that, like they air episodes of television in theaters, usually it's just the finale. They might do this again for the Ahsoka finale, but they haven't said. The other big thing they're doing is tomorrow they're airing a special episode of Ahsoka called Master and Apprentice, a special look at Ahsoka. That might be like a Disney Gallery behind the scenes type of episode, or like the Marvel Legends episodes where they give everyone a tutorial in Anakin and Ahsoka's shared backstory. I think mostly they're doing it for people that didn't watch the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels and have no idea what their relationship is before the big episode with the two of them together takes place. Like, watch this tutorial before you watch the episode with them together so that you understand why it's so meaningful they have all these scenes together. Because people that didn't watch the Clone Wars are probably going to be like, why do they care so much about each other? I don't understand. What's the relationship here? That's probably one of the only criticisms of the Ahsoka series, is that if you did not watch the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, a lot of the impactful moments just don't land quite the same way for people who did watch the Clone Wars. There is like a speedrun version of Ahsoka's backstory with Anakin that you could watch of the Clone Wars episodes and Star Wars Rebels. This is pretty much what that is. If you haven't watched any of those episodes, you should be able to get through all those before next week's episode. A lot of people also wondering about this scene of Anakin Skywalker because people thinking that it looks like he has Darth Vader's lightsaber in the World Between Worlds instead of his traditional Anakin Skywalker lightsaber. What would that mean? Like, what's actually happening in this scene? They did play the Darth Vader theme music right after she recognized Anakin, like, oh my god, it's you, Anakin. But I think what's actually going on here is that I think he does have Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, and people are just mistaken because the way the scene is lit so darkly, like everything in this space in the World Between Worlds makes things look very dark. I think this is really meant to be Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber because he's meant to look like Anakin did during the events of the Clone Wars before the events of Revenge of the Sith when he got his scar. That's why he doesn't have the scar on his face. A lot of people wondering about that too, like why does his face look so different? The thing about Anakin's scar during the prequel movies is that he left Attack of the Clones as the Padawan, then became a Jedi, and then when Revenge of the Sith picked up, he just showed up in the movie with the scar on his face. Like, how did he get the scar? There was actually a Dark Horse comic book called Star Wars Republic number 71 that was released in 2004 before Revenge of the Sith came out that canonically was supposed to explain how he got that scar. Right after he stopped being a Padawan and was granted the rank of full Jedi Knight, he has a lightsaber battle with Asajj Ventress on Coruscant. She made Anakin think that she was about to kill Padme Amidala before striking him across his face, giving him the scar. Then he basically ties her up and throws her off the top of a skyscraper. So does that mean that the Anakin that we're seeing here is from before that event? The only way that'd be possible if Ahsoka became Anakin's Padawan right before his fight with Asajj Ventress, and the only issue with that is just the timing of when they released all this stuff. The Ahsoka character was created by George Lucas and Dave Filoni when they were creating the Clone Wars episodes, but that didn't happen until 2008. So like the Ahsoka character didn't exist before 2008.
Did not do anything with her in season 1 because I didn't want to mess it up. It's a character that George and I created. She's one of the first things I ever drew for Clone Wars.
The comic book story was published in 2004, long before that. So that's why Ahsoka isn't in that particular comic book, even though during that time period between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, Ahsoka was canonically Anakin's apprentice. So I think the idea they're saying, they're just kind of waving their hand at it saying, well, Ahsoka would have been his Padawan then before he got the scar. A A lot of people are still kind of confused about what's happening just in general with Anakin Skywalker's appearance here, like the clothes he's wearing, his lightsaber. It's meant to be him when he was Ahsoka's master during the events of the Clone Wars, but after Attack of the Clones. So we're talking long before the events of Revenge of the Sith. Like, this is meant to be a much younger version of Anakin long before he started having those Force visions about Padme dying and then started getting closer to the Emperor. So we're a long ways off from Order 66 and things going completely sideways with the Jedi Order. The reason why I think they played the Darth Vader music is just to remind you what will eventually happen to him, because Dave Filoni talks about how the world between worlds works and sort of clarifying what's actually happening in this moment. This is me quoting what he said. He said, "It's not about time travel, it's about a place where everything comes together, everything is occurring from across time and space at the same moment. It's not just this place of gateways and doorways that you go in and out of, even though technically Ahsoka has gone in and out of the world between worlds now up to 2 times at least, including this time. So yes, there are lots of doorways to different points in time and space. But the idea is that Anakin was pulled into the world between worlds, so this is a living version of Anakin. It's not a Force ghost, but it was him much earlier in his timeline during those events of the Clone Wars when he was first Ahsoka's master, and the older Ahsoka is pulled into the world between worlds just as she's about to die. She's falling off the cliff, so the two of them are meeting here in the same space, even though they're from different points in the timeline. A lot of you now asking, though, how did Anakin wind up in the world between worlds? Because we never saw him enter it or reference it at all during the events of the Clone Wars or the canonical stories or movies. Like, Anakin never spoke of the world between worlds. They'll probably explain this, obviously, during Episode 5, but my early theory, without actually seeing the episode, is that he was probably able to enter it because of his unique connection with the Force and the Force gods, the Mortis gods. Remember, he's literally the child of the Force, the chosen one. A good example would be the Mortis episodes of the Clone Wars where they all met the father, the son, the daughter. Morai is also the Force owl who appeared throughout Star Wars Rebels as well, watching over Ahsoka many different times.
Morai, you're here.
Morai?
She's an old friend.
A lot of people wondering if we're going to see Morai during the events of the Ahsoka series later in her timeline. One of the last big times that we saw her was when Ezra Bridger saved Ahsoka using the world between worlds, implying that Morai had something to do with Ezra being able to enter the world between worlds. Right before he entered, he looked at a mural of the Mortis gods. So Morai could be part of the reason why both Anakin and Ahsoka were able to enter in this moment from different parts of the timeline. Like, she could have helped save Ahsoka by pulling her into the world between worlds as she was falling off the cliff. There are a lot of theories about what happened to Ahsoka, too, because some people are taking Anakin's dialogue to mean that he's seeing her assuming that she died, like he thinks that they're both dead, seeing each other in the afterlife. But remember, this is not meant to be Force Ghost Anakin, so he's also probably just a little bit confused about what's happening, too. They're both meant to be alive in this moment, and per Dave Filoni's explanation of how the world between worlds works, it's just they're 2 different parts of the timeline colliding with each other in the same moment. Because in this place, everything that happened and everything that will happen all occurs at the same time. Generally, if we're talking about Ahsoka being on the traditional Joseph Campbell hero's journey, because George Lucas talked about Joseph Campbell a lot when he was writing the original Star Wars movies, this would be her innermost cave scene. Really good Star Wars in-universe comparison would be Luke Skywalker's Dagobah cave scene, his innermost cave scene. In here, Ahsoka will be tempted to tell Anakin about his future becoming Darth Vader Order 66 in the idea that she could change the past and prevent that from happening so that he's still alive in present day. But she just got done talking to Sabine about not doing something like that, which Sabine also failed, like she gave the map to Baylan's Skoll and they were able to get to the other galaxy and find Thrawn and Ezra Bridger. So this Ahsoka is supposed to be bigger than that, like she's supposed to make the hard choice and not do what she wants to do, which is save Anakin Skywalker from becoming Darth Vader.
I can stop Kanan from dying!
You can't save your master, and I can't save mine.
She even briefly talked to Ezra Bridger about that, like, you can't save your master from dying, talking about Kanan. I'll talk about that too, because there was a really quick blink and you'll miss it Kanan live-action cameo scene during the episode. But Ahsoka said, I also can't save my master, even though technically you could do it in the world between worlds. Talking about some of the other things that are going to be paying off during the episode, a lot of people were thinking that this moment here of Ahsoka taking the map and it burning her hand was meant to be another Indiana Jones reference because they kind of gave her an Indiana Jones moment at the beginning of the series. Indiana Jones is George Lucas's other big franchise. So maybe the map was burned into Ahsoka's hand like it was done during Raiders of the Lost Ark into the Nazis' hand. Remember that they can also use the world between worlds for Ahsoka to travel to the other galaxy too. She would just need to know how to get there. I don't know if they're necessarily going to do that because Hu Yang is waiting on the Cetos planet in her ship, so she might just leave the world between worlds and go back to her ship. But theoretically, it would be possible to use the world between worlds as a sort of like galactic train depot to get to the other galaxy super quickly. A lot of people still have some Marrok theories about who he really was before he became a Nightsister zombie. He could have been the 8th brother who was from Star Wars Rebels and died trying to capture Maul during Twilight of the Apprentice, mostly because their masks are very similar. Let me know in the comments, who do you think Marrok was when he was still alive? Like, he was probably still just a regular Inquisitor that died at some point before the events of the Ahsoka series, then was resurrected by Morgan Elsbeth as a Nightsister zombie. The really quick blink and you'll miss it live-action Kanan cameo scene came during the ghost scene where Hera was on board, looked at a picture of Freddie Prinze Jr. as live-action Kanan, so they might actually have a live-action Kanan flashback scene at some point. We could also see a version of him inside the world between worlds in that kind of a flashback scene. Let me know in the comments, because they showed this cameo scene of live-action Freddie Prinze Jr. as Kanan, do you think we'll see a bigger cameo scene of him later? There was also another really quick blink and you'll miss it Mandalorian cameo scene, and it was Brendan Wayne. He was one of the X-Wing pilots. He is the stunt double for Pedro Pascal that does the on-screen physical performance for the Mandalorian character. Pedro Pascal usually just does the voice of the character. But the other big payoffs that they need to show in episode 5 will be actual Thrawn, like making to the other galaxy, they find Thrawn, and maybe also Ezra Bridger. So let me know in the comments, do you think we'll just see Thrawn in next week's episode, or will they also show us what really happened to Ezra Bridger? Because there's a lot of stuff that they have to do, and it sounds like most of the episode will be dedicated to Ahsoka and Anakin Skywalker. Cannot wait to see some more Sky Guy and Snips reunion scenes. It's going to be great. Post all your predictions in the comments below. Click here for my full Ahsoka episode 4 video, and click here for all my other Ahsoka episodes. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.